Yo, welcome back to Stuff or Whatever podcast. Your host, BQuanchi here. Before we get started, I always like to say the best way to support me and the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe, which you can do right here on YouTube, follow on Twitter for updates and other fun tweets, and on Twitch where I do streaming and all that. And that's something we'll get a little bit later into the podcast, talking about, there's a lot of thoughts in terms of streaming platforms, but I think Twitch is still going to be my place to do so. So we got a very special podcast this week. I have to mention also, no one really listens, but just in case they do, I try to say that every week, and then I realize the past two ones, I call them streams when the podcasts. It's one of my habits, but at least no one's, listening to judge me, but you could comment when I mess up, but it's not really a big mess up, but it's listening and editing the podcast. Usually when I edit, it's just mostly for clean up and make sure, it's as good as I can possibly make it for this $5 podcast. Yeah, but I don't know, been kind of thinking, I don't know, I kind of make small little stupid updates and where the channel's going, and it is it's going. This stuff I'm procrastinating on, I need to make some more shorts, because a lot of it, I haven't been playing any different games or games I want to talk, because a lot of my shorts are like that too, and maybe I should try to look for highlights as well. A lot of my shorts are based off by game streams and all that. But I guess next thing I want to talk about is the Nintendo Direct they had recently. And pretty good Direct. A lot of people were very happy with it. A lot of Mario-filled stuff. So I thought it was pretty good. It was kind of surprised it's Nintendo does what Nintendo does, and he kind of dropped it last minute. Just because, especially with E3 being dead, and also some news, it looks like E3 is not happening next year or 2025. So I'm not sure if that. I thought it was already established that E3 is permanently dead, but they confirmed that they don't. It's going to be canceled next 2 years. So I'm not sure. Just because every company now does the directs or they little events and stuff like that too. So it's not really necessary anymore. And I'm sure developers or companies or whatever want to get the buzz from game journalists or whatever, they have their own means to do so without relying on E3. So kind of funny, but I think it was very Mario heavy. They did talk about the Pokemon DLC, and I almost forgot most of it. I might have to just rewatch it. It's okay, there's a few new legendaries, a few new locations, a lot of old Pokemon that are being included. It feels like it's playing out the same way as Sword and Shield when it comes to Scarlet and Violet, so nothing really too exciting. The Legendary is kind of meh. So we'll see. I'm just happy. I'll probably get it. I'll probably play it. I don't know. I need to change up my setup to do streams using my Switch. That would be a little bit more cool. One thing, when it came to the DLC for Sword and Shield, the first part was kind of neat. It introduced a new quote unquote legendary that can evolve in one or two different forms, and it's that cool little feeling of having all these other Pokemon that weren't in the game at the initial game, you can get them in the game now. But the second part of the Crown Tundra and Scarlet and but Sword and Shield, I thought that really much better because it had the Dynamax adventures where it's not really much, and when you look at it, it's just series of Dynamax battles, but you get so many legendaries. So I wonder if they're going to do that. I hope they do. I'll see what happens, but DLC just seems a little blah. I think maybe you get finally some more cosmetics for your characters to kind of change them up. And yeah, I really don't know much with that, so. And it also announced a sequel to Pokemon, the Detective Pikachu, which I haven't played because I didn't get the 3DS, but I'm sure a lot of people are happy with that one. It looks fun. I'm not sure what to expect. So I'm kind of curious, but I never played the first one, so maybe I have to check out the other Pokemon game. I know the Mystery Dungeon and Rangers are kind of some of the popular spin-off series too. So also in the Direct, they talked a lot of stuff that was already announced, like the Sonic Superstars, and this other kind of like small titles as well. And oh yeah, Pikmin. So I might need to jump back. I barely played the first one, but I played it when I did the Wii port. Um, but they finally dropped 1 and 2, and a lot of people. I think hopefully that'll be a good sign for Nintendo because I feel like they're very lazy or almost like very like not listening to the audience when it comes to legacy content. Like people have been wanting like updated ports of Zelda, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess, and things like that. So we'll see. Especially with the dropped Metroid Prime 1 Remastered a while back. I'm wondering if we're going to get Prime 2 and 3. But when it comes to Pikmin, yeah, that's cool. They dropped the first 2. I'm sure a lot of people are happy with that. And more details of the 4th game. And from what I've been hearing, it seems a lot better. Like the series, this title seems to be standing out more. Even though it had like, I'm not sure how long its production was. But I feel like it had a long production to the point that we're not sure what's going to happen with it. And let's see. There's like going to Mario, they mentioned the DLC for the Rabbids game, which I kind of forgot about. I know it's been kind of iffy because people like concerned with Ubisoft as a company. So I had the first game that haven't been beat with the Mario and Rabbids whatever game. And I'm trying to think of other highlights. I was kind of surprised to hear a WarioWare game being released because they just recently released one. Get It Together, and now is it Shake It? I'm bad at remembering stuff, but kind of surprised by a lot of people like getting more hype for this one because it feels like it's going back to like smooth moves. The Wii version they had, of the title that it had on Wii. And a lot of people even pointed that one as being one of the better or even best WarioWare game. So we'll see. It's kind of cool that they're kind of like focusing on the Joy-Cons, motion controls, and uniqueness to it. Yeah, and so other stuff that's dropping to Switch that's kind of interesting. They're finally getting the Batman, the Arkham games, the Arkham trilogy. They're getting Metal Gear Solid, and some stuff like some boring stuff too, like Just Dance. It's kind of cool that getting Vampire Survivors, so that'd be kind of interesting to see that play. Oh, and also porting the Luigi Mansion, the Dark Moon, which was the 3DS title, so that'd be kind of neat. And then, oh yeah, I always find this almost kind of annoying, even though I kind of like the series. I haven't picked it up, but Splatoon 3 seems like they always take a break from a little segment of the direct to talk about, oh, here's the Splatfest, which I'm sure people who play the game know about it, and I always feel like a wasted like minute or so just to talk about it. And then, again, like I think a lot of other games are multi-platform. I think like the Persona 5, the Tactics game that's coming out. And nothing too much, and not going to the. Oh yeah, there's a Dragon Quest, a monster game, which is kind of like Dragon Quest Pokemon. I'm not sure if that's multi-platform, but I'm curious about that too. And then the big Mario news as well. Besides the Luigi Mansion, they also announced Mario Kart. I thought they finished rolling out the waves, but I guess not. And this one's kind of cool because they have a new track and 3 new characters as well. The P Piranha, Wiggler, and Kamek. So that's kind of cool. Before it was just tracks, and then now we got Birdo. Now we have 3 more characters coming up. And yeah, and then the big Mario one. There's a Princess Peach game that's coming out next year. They showed very little of it, just that it exists and there's some gameplay footage or some footage. But it's very interesting. I just hope it's not something that comes up as too casual or too basic. I haven't played the Princess Peach game that came out on DS. I heard that was a fun one. So we'll see. And then the big news, the Super Mario RPG remake. That's coming out later this year, and that looks really cool. It's funny, I played that on the channel. I played the original game, and I played a randomizer mod of it. It's pretty cool. It's like one of the things that people... Because it always felt like... Squaresoft at the time, not Square Enix, but it seemed like there was this rift with Nintendo and Square, because it was like all these Final Fantasy games and stuff like that on Super Nintendo. And then when it came to the next generation... Nintendo came with cartridges for the N64, and that's when SquareSoft's uh, went over to PlayStation because the disc space was more superior and all that. They've been making games like ever since the GameCube. You've been seeing games on multi-platform, even some exclusives and all that. But then people like excited is if there comes the next Smash game, maybe Gino has more of a chance of appearing in it. It's cool. I like the little chibi style. Some things I notice about the trailer is the combat. It seems the time hits have a little bit more of a bonus. Like it seemed like one damage, like another character did like 2 hits. So I think that it's not just visually. I think there's also got like cutscenes too. It looks like a lot more visual flair than just the graphics revamp. But I think some of the gameplay mechanics, it would be kind of interesting if they added new moves and special moves. I feel like some characters like Bowser, it was very limited and all that. And I know like the first game was, the original game was pretty casual in terms of RPGs. I know that was kind of like the trend in the 90s that Americans don't get RPGs, so that's why they made things easier in some cases. Like if you look at the Final Fantasy series too, like some titles are change and some titles weren't even what you want to call it, localized in the US. Like we didn't get the original 2 until years after original 3, years after. And then the last big part of the direct is the new Mario 2D Mario games, the Super Mario Wonder. And I heard some, I'm not sure if it's just like expectations or wants and on that, but people have been wanting another 2D Mario game that's not as copy and paste, because a lot of them just kind of blends together. It just seems like the same game. I just have the Switch one. I never got the Wii U, so I heard it's like, I don't know if it's just like some things were just updated, like the one power up or whatever, like the flying squirrel one. But this one looks a lot interesting. It seemed like doing a lot more mechanics. They added Daisy as well, but they have like, you can glide with your hat. You can have these like trippy flowers that like change things up. A lot of things, and even like playing the foreground and background or all that. It seems like you're really reamping it, and I think a lot of the visuals too. Like someone even mentioned that there's no score anymore, and of course the big thing, the Elephant Mario. So we'll see how that plays out. It looks a lot good, so I think that's what they need to do with the 2D Mario to like really make it different. I don't think it's going to be like completely unique in a sense that it kind of differs from the rest of them and like going to blow everything away. I think it's going to do a good job. It looks really cool and fun, and we'll have to see. But yeah, it's definitely like, at least it's not like barely rehashing the same game over and over again, but it's the new Super Mario series that they've been doing for so long. So definitely a breath of fresh air. But I think the only thing that like really missed, I know a lot of people really liked the direct. I thought it was really good. I felt like it just didn't quite have a big title that it needed. Or like if they had any update on Metroid Prime 4, that's what we need, and because that had such a production hell already. And it's like, is this game even coming out, or is it getting quietly canceled? But then again, they put out the remaster Prime 1. It's like they have to still support it, but it's just been really crazy that we haven't heard much of anything. I'm kind of surprised. I'm not sure if they're going to do DLC for Tears of the Kingdom from Zelda, because they did that for Breath of the Wild, and some people were expecting that. But I kind of wish there was just like maybe a big Donkey Kong game. Like I know there was one rumored for quite some time, or like a follow-up to Mario Odyssey. Unless it's a Princess Peach game, but we just haven't seen much to really have an idea of how that game will be. But yeah, that pretty much summarizes the Nintendo Direct and some of my opinions about it. So next I wanted to talk about streaming, because I do stream on Twitch, and you can go follow it, by the way. And I do put those on YouTube, but there's been a lot of buzz, a lot of Twitch not doing as great in terms of public opinion with some of the decisions and all that. It's really kind of hard to like summarize it all, but I think a lot of it, like, there was a thing about branding, and they're gonna like crack down on it, like, with burn or like visibility of brands in streams, and they kind of pulled back on that. it almost feels like on a weekly there's like something people being upset about. I just noticed something before recording this is that I guess Twitch is going to try something that it's pretty much super chats for YouTube that Twitch is doing, where uh, I think it's like hype chat or something, where they kind of like pin it to the top or make it more visible. Because I don't like YouTube that way you can kind of like see the top comments or like the top donations and all that. And then like people switching over to Kick, which I also want to talk about as well. I don't have much experience with Kick. I'm actually kind of bad. As much as I want people to check out my Twitch, I'm bad at checking streamers and live streams and all that. Even though I like watching like Let's Plays and all that on YouTube. But Kick, I really don't know about it. Just learning more about it. It's like backed by people who like found a way to do like crypto gambling. I think that's one of the big things that started up is that Twitch kind of cracked down on gambling. But also I saw something about Twitch like updating categories, and I think they're gonna bring gambling back. I think they said stuff like categories like violent games or excessive language. So I don't know. But with Kick, it just seems very fishy to me. So I'm not gonna even bother with it. I know people have their strong opinions, but also hear criticisms that like, it's kind of buggy and stuff like that, like the interface and all that. So probably not as good. I'm not sure how new it is. I feel like it's just taking advantage of all the bad publicity Twitch is getting. And they had a huge deal with I know he's really big, but I don't know him as a creator or streamer. XQC getting $100 million, and that seems a lot. Like, I'm getting huge Mixer vibe, and that was like, I remember back in the day, Mixer was like, oh, that's going to be like the Twitch killer. That's going to be the new Twitch. And that died, I think, after 4 years, and that was even backed by Microsoft. I didn't know back in the day, Mixer was like 30 million for Ninja to be like exclusive and all that, and then paying this guy over 3 times as much, and that's a whole shit ton of money. And see that plays that. I also heard like it's not exclusivity deal or anything like that. Like he could stream on multi platforms if he wanted to. I know Twitch doesn't like that. But then another thing that I find very suspicious too is that with Kick, I know it is more like not just suspicious, but too good to be true that their revenue split is 95-5 in favor of the streamer. And I'm like, that's ridiculously high. That's suspiciously generous. Like, how can they survive financially if they're bleeding out so much money? Like, hemorrhaging out so much money with these deals to get streamers on the platform, big names on the platforms, and then this very, very appealing, like, hey, we stream here, you're gonna make so much more money. Because I think, as good as that sound, I think audiences aren't gonna jump over and all that. I know, like, I know a little bit about Aiden Ross, but people like, oh, that's the platform he's on, so kind of avoid them. So it's very, but I also feel like the gambling thing is like what's really the appealing side, or what's going to make them money. But I feel like this is going to bleed out, shut down, all that. Also, a funny thing about Kick, I know Pokemon Bean was saying about it. I looked up a little bit myself, but it was that they actually use Amazon Web Services to, I guess, run or get whatever in terms of like bit rates or being hosted or whatever. And of course, Amazon owns Twitch, so that, although like I even heard this criticism too that even though it's like a competitor to Twitch and Amazon owns Twitch, Amazon still has a pretty good reason to keep this deal. I guess you can call it a deal. You can provide these services because Kick is making Amazon money. It's funny, like Pokemon saying they're making Twitch money, but no. They're making Amazon money. So Amazon is like, unless I don't think it would really hurt them as much as being a competitor. You just have to wait and see. But yeah, and I don't like, I didn't even mention YouTube yet, because I felt like when it came to streaming, YouTube and Twitch were the main ones. My problem with YouTube, I'm very tempted to do some streams as a test it out, just to have more of a following here on YouTube. But I feel like YouTube does a really bad job at promoting streams or lives and all that. Like I remember, like the other day, I was trying to look it up, and it took me like 5 minutes to remember. Oh, this is where you go to check out who's live, or like sometimes the algorithm would feed me something. But usually it'd be like a channel that I already follow that is going live. I feel like they could just update the menu to have it near the top or have it on the homepage more visibly. Like if YouTube pushed streams, live streams, as much as they push shorts, then that would make a really appealing platform for streamers. But I'm not sure, like, good thing. I know, like, also YouTube has the issues with copyright. Like, things get abused or get overly flagged. People who don't own the copyright make these false flags and all that. So I feel like that's another criticism with YouTube. But with YouTube, I also feel like outside of streams, like the algorithm does help with visibility and being, what do you call it? People like explore, discovered. Versus Twitch, I think you have to like. I think maybe with most streaming platforms that you have to rely on like other third parties or like rely on Twitter to get your audience following you, then like, hey, I'm going live, because sometimes people don't get notifications or turn that on and all that. So like, sometimes it's having other platforms like, hey, I'm going live, check me out here. Yeah, and then with Twitch, I get a habit of clipping what I call highlights, kind of like short clips I kind of use for compilations or convenience. I might have to get in a habit of making shorts of them too for TikTok and YouTube, but I feel like they get no views, they get no visibility whatsoever, unless somebody happens to be checking my channel and looking through them. But it's more like that's just something I just have just for convenience of if I wanted to clip something and recycle it somewhere else. But and sometimes I'll get some past broadcast views, but I just feel like Twitch isn't really as good as like in terms of algorithm. But again, my numbers are extremely small. It's just me having fun with games, and I would say honestly the VODs do better. So taking the streams and uploading to YouTube does better than actually doing anything on Twitch. But it's kind of like the idea is having more than eggs in more than one basket and all that. But with Kick, I see it failing. I don't know much. I'm probably just some idiot on the internet. That's true. But I feel like some of the different outcomes is that Kick is just gonna burn out. It almost feels like a pump and dump, because I feel like with the XQC thing, I'm not sure if he's been paid yet, if that's all cash money or if it involves like assets or stocks, or I don't know what happens with these deals. But if they just like bail, not pay him out, and then get all this revenue, and then they don't pay the streamers, and they kind of like hightail it out of there. Although there's probably a lot of legal issues too, so that seems kind of stupid to kind of do a pump and dump. But I don't think that's impossible. I feel like Kick would just burn out. It might just exist still, just because it's like I think Twitch could really make a difference if they get their heads out of their asses. But also, I think what would be my reservations, besides the reputation and history, like the background with Kick, is that they rely on Amazon to host their streams, to host their site, in terms of the Amazon Web Services. So if they had their own company or they had their own setup, that would give me peace of mind if I were to use that as a platform. Not that Amazon would have really motivation to say, like, hey, you can't use the service anymore because you're competing with Twitch, but that could happen. And then if like Amazon Web Services cut them off, then they'll be shit out of luck. I also like heard that Twitch loses Amazon money, which I'm not sure is that as true. I had trouble looking at the information, so if someone knows more, post in the comments, because I know like Twitch makes a shit ton of money, but also big companies can be really stupid when it comes to like costs, especially with marketing and all that. So I feel like they should always be in a green, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're like in a red on a regular and bleeding out money. But Amazon's so big of a company, it doesn't matter. At least from my what I've seen in terms of how much money they make, I don't think if they lose money, it's like not as bad as it could be. But then also another outcome, like maybe Kick would be bought out by Amazon, which wouldn't make as much sense. Because I don't think they would really want to, just because of some of the liability with like the gambling and stuff like that. It's kind of iffy. But that would be too unheard of, because you see these deals all the time with like Disney's a big example of owning so many different studios or networks or television networks. So I don't think it's completely unheard of for Amazon to have both Kick and Twitch. Even because I don't think Twitch would ever be shutting down, just because I think it's like too big to fail. Some of the stuff makes you think otherwise, but I think people bounce back. You always see people get upset about websites and all that, and then like, oh, they still use them. Like with Twitter, like you like RP Twitter, like, oh, we're ditching Twitter for Hive, or we're ditching Twitter for Blue Sky, and nope, people still use Twitter. So I think that's going to be for the Twitch as well, as that no matter how many people get upset, it's still going to be running, and people are going to still come back and all that. But yeah, there is a chance. I don't think Kick is going to shut Twitch down, and I just think I'm not sure if there's any other big streaming things. I don't think it's the Facebook, but I never hear much about the Facebook Live or Facebook gaming. And I feel like YouTube could really take advantage. Like they need to push streams as they do for shorts and the other like regular uploaded content. But with the streaming, I guess you can call it streaming wars. I think Kick's just gonna fizzle out. I feel like don't put your eggs in that basket. At least not all of them, but I think as much as people get upset with Twitch, it's still going to be around for quite some time. I think with maybe dipping toe into YouTube just to see how the numbers and see what works, I think I'm still going to do a Twitch thing for a good amount of time. And next thing I want to talk about this podcast is I kind of had this inkling to make merch or look into that, even though I'm not a creative type in any ways. Just look at my history on the channel. But I don't know, it's more like having a pipe dream and stuff. Like I kind of wish I could make this exist, if that makes sense. Because I've been hearing about this website. I see some other content creators use it, called Makeshift, where you can get a plush. And I'm not sure. It's like one of the things I kind of want to look into it, but I know it's not going to really become of anything unless, I have like more of a following and more numbers in terms of like, hey, if I try to, I don't want to say like push this, but if I try to put this out there, is anyone going to take it kind of thing? Because from what I could look at Makeshift, like they make a plush and it seems very much like Kickstarter in a way that they have to have this funding, like so many pre-orders, and then they produce it. I think it takes its time as well, but it's like less risk as a consumer, because it makes it come off as like, hey, if this is funded, then you're going to get it. But if the campaign fails, then you get refunded as well. But I think you have to sell like have 100 pre-orders before they go into production. And I really want to do that so bad, but I feel like at this time it's not going to happen. And I'm just curious, like, 'cause I noticed a lot of the plushes kind of like look in certain styles. So I feel like you can give them like basic concepts and then they make their own design. Like you don't have to make like elaborate designs for a plush. Like if you're like, hey, you make a plush of this, and like, okay, kind of stuff. So I feel it will be I think that's why that looks very appealing to me, even though it's like one of those things that are never going to happen, because I feel like I have an idea, which I'm not as creative to like really make a prototype or whatever. Like, hey, this is something I really want to make a plush of. Like, we got it. Like, give them details, collaborate. Because I would like to do that more. Is to collaborate as I guess like an idealist, or just like having the initial concepts and ideas, like have someone else like translate it, my dumb thoughts into some dumb product and all that. But yeah, make sure it looks like a cool plush site. It almost makes me wish I had a huge disposable income because a few things I would like to pre-order, just like support people as well. I don't know if I was big, I say that with indie games as well, but like Kickstarter and stuff like that. But I can only do so much. But also, there's another pipe dream that's never going to happen. Is that I want to design some T-shirts, just some simple printed tees. And I'm no artist, so it's like I can't even make the design myself. Because things like third-party T-shirts, I think as long as you can like, upload a design, they like print it. I'm sure like T Public or Spring Tees or all that. But it's like some T-shirts I want to make, I want to wear, I want to be available out there. So that's like a pipe dream. Is that if I ever had the opportunity to make merch, I would really love to. Idea for a plush, an idea for some T-shirts and all that. Probably can't be the hardest thing to do, but I think if it's like there's no real audience, because if there's like more comments, if it's more like chats when I go live on stream and all that, I feel like that would make it seem more possible. Because it feels like one of those things like I want to do for me, but it just can't happen if I don't have the realistic like, hey, this needs to sell in a sense. Like we're not going to produce one thing for you. It needs to have these campaigns like with Kickstarter as well. Is that you have to have these some goals met before something really like goes on to the next step. But just some things I wanted to blurb about. The last thing I wanted to talk about on this stream is bringing back the whatever report. What I tried to get some sillier, maybe not the most common news, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about the submarine, the Titanic submarine, because I know a lot of people talk about that, and this is kind of like my stupid regurgitation of the events, what was like discussed about. So, as of this recording, it was confirmed that there was like an implosion, that there was some wreckage, that all aboard unfortunately passed away. I know people like were memeing on it because I know like when the news were getting out, it was like this company Ocean Gate was selling for $250,000 a person to see the Titanic to dive on it. It sounds very I don't want to say stupid, but it sounds like very reckless and like that can't like is it really worth it? Like if they have footage of it, I would be happy just watching documentary and all that. But there was some news about like in the past with the company whistleblowers and all that, or like about safety, and even like some employees were like fired, and there was like some lawsuits. So it's also like one of the crazy details is that the CEO of the company went on this expedition, but I guess he goes on all of them. But it's like one of those things like I'm not risking that. Like although I'm sure there's going to be a lot of loss. I'm sure this company's shutting down. I'm sure like even the whole industry or idea of seeing these going on these underwater expeditions is not going to be a thing anymore, just because of the danger involved. But it could be with the vessel. And so, someone else is saying that on the vessel they used a Logitech gaming controller to pilot. But also hearing that, hey, that's not like the most uncommon things. Like a lot of people in the military and stuff like that use this kind of controllers on vehicles as well. So I thought it was kind of interesting. I know people kind of like joked on that too, memed on it, all that. And then there was like another kind of like a meme-worthy moment of the stepson. I'm not sure if the CEO or because I know one of the passengers was a guy who set a lot of, I think like maybe 2 or 3 world records, kind of like going on expeditions, a kind of like adventurous. But I guess his stepson went to a Blink 182 concert and that got some flack. And when I first started, like, okay, yeah, you can't go to a concert, like that's not that big of a deal. I know it like sucks when families like in grave danger, likely to die, and then going to a concert, but like he posted on Facebook that like like my father would want me to be here and stuff like that. Like I feel like okay, you draw too much attention to it, so I can get the flack. Like I guess it got deleted as well, but I think that most of the major points is that there's issues with safety, concern like if, but there was like some banging. So I'm wondering like the events because they said there was an implosion. That caused wreckage, but then I think it was yesterday, at least yesterday I was recording this, there was some banging, but I couldn't find out what that banging was. But kind of a sad story. I know one of the passengers was like 19, and I know a lot of people like framing this like, oh, rich people doing dumb stuff, like almost like the rich deserve it because like you could donate to charity or whatever. But I think that's kind of a each to each their own. But to say don't go into a little. Last funny thing I'm going to talk about is that somebody mentioned it was like. When the showrunners for The Simpsons actually went on the same expedition with this company years back, and he even had a Simpson episode about being in the submarine and being in danger and stuff like that. So that's kind of fun. Like people saying like Simpsons predicted it, but yeah, that's some crazy stuff going on. There's more silly stories going on with the whatever report. This happened in Illinois. I think it's Illinois, but a man accidentally shot himself while dreaming, and he did get arrested because I'm not sure exactly what this stands for, but FOID, FOID, maybe it's like fire something ID card, but he did get arrested for because of that being with that not being valid and reckless discharge of a firearm. But I guess he was having a dream that there was an intruder, and he went to shoot out the intruder, but he just shot himself in the leg. And the one thing that seems suspicious about that is like, how can you, while asleep, get your gun out and fire it? Like, you have your gun way too accessible if that's the case. Like, I would say like not have it loaded. I guess you can like if the safety was on, you can easily turn off the safety in your sleep if you're like used to handling the gun. But I don't know, that maybe just because if you're used to it, you can easily do it in your dream. But that just seems really crazy. We did shoot his leg, and sucks that he got some felony charges of it just because some other stuff going on, especially with that not having a valid card for the firearm and all that. But kind of a crazy story. And the next one, I heard this on Philip DeFranco, and it's not, I was looking at this. One thing I hate when looking at some of these websites for news is that they have a paywall. It's like, no, let me read the article. Like, get money off the advertising you're already doing on the website. But like, oh. But yeah, this one, Washington Post, but I heard Philip DeFranco is that a restaurant used a fake priest to hear confessionals. And there's a lot of stuff going on. Like they were like underpaying. There's like lawsuits like having the workers like fake their cards, so they don't like show the overtime that they're not getting paid for, and all that. It just sucks that it happens in like for restaurant workers who probably like entry level and all that, and don't know. Okay, I don't want to lose my job, but I have to work overtime and not get paid for overtime and lie about it. But also like having a fake priest. I think that's just like some ruse to like have them confess like they stole something or say a bad thing about the boss, and the boss will be like, haha, I knew about that. So I always feel like when it comes to work, like even they have like events or retreats or special meetings and stuff like that, like just act like it is, if it's going down the chain, like don't say anything bad. Like even if it means being honest, like sometimes like whatever, I'm not gonna confess to this or that, even though I try to be like a good worker and all that, be honest, all that. But yeah, if my company had like a priest with a confessional, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Or if I am, I'm just making shit up, like just say like personal like life stuff, like, oh, I lied to my mom or something like that, or whatever. But I think that's just a crazy. I'm not sure if other companies would do that with a priest and trying to get confessions out of their employees, but it sounds ridiculous. And it's the last little tidbit, kind of short, but I was seeing article about more like getting sleep. Like they say, like sometimes like reaching for coffee to get you through the afternoon could be an issue because you can still have that caffeine in your system. And they talk about like things to help with energy and sleep, like things like going for a walk or exercise, or taking breaks from work can definitely help the brain, or even do like simple tasks like hobbies like gardening, organizing stuff, cleaning. Really focus on music when you listen to music. But why I bring this up is like one of the weirdest things is that they said you can stick your head in a freezer. And it said like it kind of provides a little shock to your arousal system. So just imagine like people like feeling tired, open a freezer, shove the head in, and then walk out like energized and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how. It's kind of a snippet from the article. So, but I think that's a funny idea of this like getting a cold shock. Just to keep you awake to get through the day. Just imagine that happened at the workplace and all that. But that'll do it for the podcast this week. It's really funny. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going to have much to say, even though no one's listening. And I think lots of the time it's me rambling, but we'll see how this goes on. I have some stuff I'm looking forward to putting on the channel. Mostly the Let's Play stuff that I do weekly. Just because I feel like that performs better. I almost want to do it more often just because I have a backlog. But stuff like full playthroughs and stuff I'm having fun with. Versus what also I do on stream as well. You should check it out again. BQuanchi on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube here. And yeah, I appreciate the support. And that will do it for this week. So y'all take care and have a good rest of your day. Bye.